Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human, Gina. Thank you again for listening. If you've joined me before, thank you if you are new. I hope you stick with me. Sometimes it can take a minute to get this engine revved, and sometimes they can get a little long. So I appreciate you listening as long as you're able. Um, this is another very interesting morning for me. Afternoon. I guess it's afternoon now. I've been sleeping late a lot because I am allowing my body to do what it needs to do to get the rest it needs to get. And it's really interesting that I've been retired a little over 6 months now, and sleep has become a coveted exercise, or maybe that's not the right word. It's a coveted thing because I'm so aware now of how much of what my body needs and how much of a priority it has become to just rest when I need to rest. And it's funny because I believe that the more I allow what's best for myself, my body, my heart, my mind, the more I prioritize that over everything else, the more tuned in I am to my body's method methods of speaking to me. And I've talked about this a couple of times before, listening to my body, the cues. I think the last podcast I did, I started with, what I was going through was brought on by a feeling in my body of heat, and and the body has many languages, and it's interesting how I've realized that the more I've tuned in, and by tuning in, of course, I'm tuning out of everything else. I'm able to pick up on these things, and it's almost, I really I attribute a lot of what I learned from the soul world to the tarot readings that I get. And these have become an important part of my connection with my higher self, with my soul family, and with any other light being in the universe with a benevolent intention in my life to get through to me. And I believe these come through, these this connection, this channel is opened for this communication to be delivered. And it's my responsibility to keep the deck clear so I can receive these. So sleep is well, I've learned through my uh through the communications with my soul team that sleep is a way that I get informed. So during sleep I get, I guess they can be referred to as downloads, but they are emanations, or they are clarity around things that I'm thinking about or working on, or whatever. And as I sleep, up to 8 hours a night lately, and it's wonderful. It's just amazing. I would recommend it if you have the ability. I have an empty house, and I have a very quiet uh, neighborhood, and I sleep. When I sleep, I can sleep without interruption, and it's really wonderful. And I realize when I wake up, if I do it kind of in a methodical way, meaning I don't just jump up and go off and do something. I've really learned to appreciate the how much I've slowed down my life. And I know this isn't possible for everyone, so I don't want to say it's necessary, but for me, it has become a really important way that I kind of prime myself to receive these emanations or messages, or wisdom from the universe. So, or the soul world, maybe that's more accurate. And sometimes I marvel at this because I've awakened the last couple of times I've done this podcast with this idea, and I got so excited I just recorded, and this is no different. So um I've been thinking about my future a lot lately and what that is going to contain. And I don't, I'm a little hesitant to talk about this because sometimes, when I'm told that I'm to talk in clear and unfiltered terms, or honest, raw and unfiltered terms, that is an overarching truth. It's not something that I can pick and choose. So there are times where I'm hesitant to talk about something because it feels really personal, or maybe it's unfinished, and I don't want to jinx it, which is what our mind tells us we're going to do if we believe in something too much. And this is really kind of interesting because it really provides a doorway to where I want to go with this conversation today. Because we think about what we want in our lives, and I did a whole podcast about dreaming big, and it was called What God's Dream. And I want to build on that some more, because in that episode I talked about how my ability to daydream has gotten so much more powerful. And I think this is obvious. This probably very obviously is because I've cleared away all of the insecurities and the doubt that kept me in an old toxic situation for years and years. And even the podcast I did lastly, which was about fear. We fear what we don't. Fear is a shield for our insecurities. I think that maybe that makes sense, because we use fear as a way to not move forward. We use fear as a way to stay stuck because we're afraid of going. And I won't expound again because I did a whole podcast on it. So, but with that fear gone for the most part, and of course, I will always deal with fear on some level. I think the point of the last episode is that it's become not just manageable, but I can easily see the beginning and the end of it. So the process to go through what I need to deal with the fear is much quicker now. I can see the whole thing from a high perspective. So, and of course, that's what you get. You get high perspective when you clear out all the garbage that keeps you from seeing what's real. So, because I've done this work, this soul work, this shadow work, I have this privilege of seeing things as they are. And because I can do that, I can easily decipher. Uh, no, sometimes not easily, because I think that's still it's meant to be a challenge. I think life is meant to be a challenge. So no matter how aware you become, you're always going to be challenged, because that's why we're here. We are not here for an easy ride. So even though you get to a certain point where you have this high perspective and you can see things before they start and how they end, you're still going to have challenges, because that's why we're here. So I would never want to uh, skip over that and exclaim that I have the answers to everything. That's not why we're here. That's not the point. The point is being able to see things as they are, so you can have a clear understanding of your options, and you don't fall in a certain direction that you're used to falling into, because it's the only way you know how. So when you are less fearful, or you're aware of your fear, that shield is dropped, and you can actually process what you're feeling, and you can move beyond it. So, when I imagine a future, that fear or that insecurity about what we deserve or what we're worthy of is a very plays a big role, and it really doesn't allow us to really wildly imagine what's possible. So we conservatively dream, and it's not our fault. We don't understand that we're doing it. We are just so conditioned by our belief in ourselves. No matter what we project out to the world, whatever we truly feel. Remember, I talked about our energetic signature. Whatever that energetic signature is who we are. It doesn't matter what we try to appear as. And appearances become very important in the world, and especially with social media, where we can be anonymous otherwise. the appearance of something is not what we are. So if we're able to drop that facade and truly deal with who we are, we can begin to let go of what doesn't serve us and really build on what does. And as we're doing this exercise of of eliminating or removing or exorcising things in our bodies and our energy that do not serve us, we kind of start this cosmic or universal process of manifestation. And I've wanted to do a podcast about manifestation for a while in an article, but I haven't done it yet. And honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to do it now. But there's an aspect of this, of course, because what happens is when we start to change the narrative, we start to change that energetic signature, we align ourselves with the highest blessings that are available to us. And forgive me if this sounds very colloquial, because I don't really technically I don't know what the hell I'm saying. And I'm just going to be honest about that. This is what I know in my body. And this is the difference between intuition and learned knowledge. And intuition is the your soul speaking to you. It is the universe speaking to you. It is if the channel is open enough, it is emanations from God knows where. It is wisdom or even genius coming to you from beings out in the soul world. So intuition is, for me anyway, is the only thing that I value. Learned knowledge, of course, is important in the world. It's important to, for the tasks we need to do. It's important for what we need to do to learn about whatever we need to learn about, practical knowledge to get us, to live this life. I'm not discounting that at all. But what I'm saying is, I've lived a life avoiding formal education. And let me just punctuate that a little bit. Not because I didn't want to be informed, but because I've always had an intuitive knowing in my body. And so because of this, I never went to college. I did go to college briefly to learn some skills so I can get a job. I did that. But as far as investing myself into one topic or one effort, I never really could understand that, how I would know at such a young age what I want to do and invest all of these years of time, energy, and money into learning that one thing, and then going into the world and doing that the rest of my life. That never made any sense to me. And please forgive me if I'm inadvertently insulting anyone. That's not my point here. What my point is for me, an intuitive, and I think that a lot of us are. Well, all of us are. But for me, being like a closet intuitive or an unaware intuitive, it never made any sense to me. So much so that when my daughter was ready for college, I told her not to go. I knew that college was not where she was going to thrive. That not because she couldn't learn, she was incredibly intelligent, but because her life was meant for exploration and discovery, and not she wouldn't do well, and it would become a failure to her if college didn't work out the way she wanted. And I don't know how she would have internalized that or anything. I didn't really discuss it at that depth with her. All I said is if you don't feel inclined, don't do it, because college is important if you have a goal that is very clear that you want to, work towards. And again, this is not to discount that path at all. It's just to say that for me, and I knew for my daughter, it was not the path for us. What I told her instead was, if you don't feel strongly about college, go get a job, any job. And then that job is a stepping stone to whatever comes next. So in that job, you will meet someone, you will learn something, you will gain some sort of wisdom that will take you to on the next leg of your journey and the next stepping stone. So I told her, Don't go unless you feel strongly about it, passionate about this this path. And she did go to college briefly, a few times before she decided that she was going to just get a job and follow that path. And I don't think that she did it because of what I said, because it was a couple of years later. I think she just realized on her own that this was not right for her and that she had this intuitive body too, and she was going to see where it took her. And she did. And honestly, it's been amazing watching her move through this world in a professional way, because she went from one job, her very first one that lasted only a few hours, before she said, "Screw this, I'm not doing this," which was in first important lesson. And then she found another job which she enjoyed more, but it ended up setting her on a trajectory where she met someone and went somewhere else, and then met someone and went somewhere else, and met someone and went somewhere else, and so on, to the point where she was in a job that she really enjoyed, that was a very well-paying job, and she was poached by a company because of her personality and her ability to deal with people and her intelligence and her professionalism. And she was poached by a company who elevated her skills and put her in a position of leadership, where she spent 2 years before starting her own business. So now I don't know where the rest of her journey is going to take her, but the intuitive route seemed to be the right choice for her. So this is what I've always done too. I've worked different jobs. I've never really done anything that I had to invest a lot of training into. I've always just been able to go where I was led. And it's so interesting because intuition is I'm trying to think of a vehicle again. I keep coming back to this same example, because it's like a navigation system. I mean, it is a navigation system. And even if you don't have a steering wheel in this intuitive vehicle, you still get where you want to go, because the vehicle knows where to take you. So when I think about formal training, and I've had a lot of training in my life. Don't get me wrong. I have a resume full of classes that I've taken, but these are micro learnings. These are classes that I was able to learn specific skills to help me where I was going. I never invested in a long term. I don't want to keep sounding like that's a bad thing. It's certainly not. It just, for me, it wasn't the right path. So these little micro learnings is what I did along the way. I micro learned computer technology so I can get a job in a company, and where I had to use a computer. I micro learned it. I took one class and I was able to get this job. Uh, During this job, I had a very big interest in employee relations. I was a manager in a corporate environment, so I wanted to learn more about the human resources aspects, because I thought maybe that's where I wanted to go eventually. I don't know. I was trying to keep growing in this environment. The environment I was only meant to be in for a certain amount of time before I became self-employed, which I knew would eventually be the case. But anyway, I would get micro learning. So I would take classes, specified classes on certain topics that lasted a few days, and I would be done. And this is how I learned. This is how I kept relevant, or stayed relevant, in this corporate environment, and how I rose in the ranks very quickly. And I became a manager within a few years. And in my 13-year stay at this one company, I was a manager for 10 of them, and I managed more than 80 employees, and all these different teams, teaching me that leadership has nothing to do with, I shouldn't say nothing to do, little to do with product knowledge, but everything to do with relating to other people. So this is a big lesson I learned in this environment, which is something I was meant to learn. So I can, again, just like I can go back and see the purpose of everything I've gone through, I can see the purpose of the steps I've taken professionally. Even the life coaching business that I started 12, 14 years ago, that 13 years ago, that never materialized into anything, but it took me down a path I needed to go in order to learn what I needed to know about what I'm going to possibly do in the future, or what I'm doing now. it's all connected. And I think if because I followed this intuitive life, I've been able to kind of trust that intuition, and that intuition has developed into, um, well, it's my brain. It is my intuition is my body's brain. And so we have two brains. We have a brain, in our bodies, and we have one in our head. We have our physical brain, and we have our energetic brain. And I think what's happened since I've flipped this, uh, I've become this more aware person, self-aware, spiritually aware, universally aware person, is that I understand now that my intuitive brain is my actual brain. So I don't rely on my brain, my mind, as much as I do my intuition. My mind and my physical brain is very is critical for a lot of things, but not for overarching thematic thinking. That belongs to my my body's brain. So when I when I have an intuitive hit, which like what I had this morning, and I trust it. And it's funny because I've been encouraged by my soul family to do tarot readings. I think I might have said this before, for myself, so I can become more sharply. I can rely on my intuition. I can be more sharply intuitive. And it's funny because my daughter bought me an oracle deck for my birthday a couple months ago out of the blue, and now I had a deck to work with. And this is kind of funny because it segues me a little bit into um, something that I'm writing about right now, which is about soulmates and about the role of soulmates in each other's lives. And I think I might save that for another podcast, because I'm writing the article right now. I'm waking up every morning with intuitive hits about the article. So I guess I can say, and a woman said this to me a couple weeks ago, who I met in an art gallery. She said, "My artwork speaks to me, and it tells me what it needs." And she said, "I know that sounds crazy," because I can tell she was so used to telling everybody that, "Don't think I'm nuts, but this is how my process is." And I'm not in the right state. I'm in Ohio. I should be in California, where this is more accepted, where people understand what I'm talking about. And I said to her, I go, "You can stop justifying what you're saying. I totally get it. I totally get what you're saying, because my articles speak to me." And I guess the way she put it is kind of interesting, because I never thought of it that way. So when I wake up with a new idea for an article, I get up and I write about her. I make notes, which this morning I have a bunch of notes. But what happened in addition to that, those intuitive hits, was another burgeoning awareness of something that has been um, unfolding or blossoming inside of my intuition. And I was doing my morning energy routine this morning, which consists of some energy work, which I've learned from a teacher named Barbara. Oh my God, we get her name wrong. Oh, damn. It's the Eden method, Eden. Sorry. I'll put a link to it in the description if you happen to be listening and on a platform where I can do that. It'll also be, YouTube is a way to for sure get links. So you can go there for this if you want. It's at Postcards from a Soul. So anyway, I had this other kind of intuitive, I can almost only call it a burgeoning awareness, because it's not a fully formed thing. And then I stop and I pay closer attention, and it starts to form really quickly. And it's about imagination. And it's funny because I'm looking down at my notes and my article ideas. One of them is imagination. And basically, I put a tagline next to it that says, "Our ability to fantasize is our tool to manifest." And again, this was an intuitive idea. I don't, it's not fully formed. So I have to learn to trust. And I have learned to trust. Actually, I don't know I don't know how I survived so long not understanding the use of this incredible brain in our bodies. So I wrote this down, not really understanding why, and now I'm getting a fuller picture of why, because I woke up, I was doing my energy exercises, and then I do a little bit of muscle work, so I don't, get any too much atrophy in my body. I'm an older person, not that old. I don't know why I always say that, but I want to still do muscle work, so I do some isometrics. I do planks, I do some other things, so I can keep my core strong. And then after that, I meditate for 15 to 30 minutes. And it's kind of interesting because after I do these physical exercises, I feel like it's the best time for me to meditate, because my body is kind of worked out a little any excess energy, and by moving my energy around with this Eden method and by doing these isometrics, I feel like in a good place to meditate. So that's when I kind of naturally meditate. And during this meditation is when I started to have this incredibly intuitive idea, and it just kind of formed really quickly. And I almost jumped up and ran up to the microphone, but I realized, no, you don't have to do that. Once this intuition comes in, it's there. I don't have to worry about losing it, which is another thing I've learned. So although I was a little excited, I finished what I was doing. I made myself some breakfast, and here I am. So basically what and this is getting into a territory of something that I really hesitated talking about because I didn't want to jinx it. And I have to let that go, because there's no jinxing with this. This is this is so funny because we are so friggin' silly, and we don't. Oh my god, it's adorable. It's so cute. I laugh at myself, and I have to be entertained by this, because it is entertaining, because we have these methods and these ceremonies, or these tried and true uh, suspicions, superstitions, that we follow these ceremonial things that we do to ensure that what we want comes true. And it's funny because I think about people in sports and how they wear the same pair of underwear, or they I don't know, all these crazy things we do to energetically affect something. And it's funny because I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think that this is maybe something that we do because we know on a tribal level that it works. And prayer is the same thing. Putting energy out there towards something helps to create it in the real world. And you know, I worry about talking about this because I don't want to jinx it. When the reality is the more I talk about it, the more I'm aiding it to come into reality. And I think this is really our ability, or our ability to really imagine a life that we want. And when it's stunted or inhibited by what we believe about ourselves, that energetic signature, we are, we're blowing, we're using our mouths to blow up an air balloon. The big ones that float in the sky. You can't do that. There's not enough air. So we don't have enough energy. And it's funny because I was just watching, and this was again no accident, the movie Elf with Will Ferrell, which is such a silly, adorable movie. And I it just happened to be on live TV, which I watch sometimes, and I just sat and watched it. And the end towards the end of the movie is I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's so funny how everything's connected. There are no accidents. I'm watching this movie the night before last, and towards the end of the movie, Santa loses power in his sleigh because there's not enough belief in the miracle of Christmas, and the engine that's on the sleigh falls off because there's not enough belief, so they need so Santa needs an engine. So he ends up crash landing in Central Park, and uh, Elf, who's the Will Ferrell character, finds him in the park and is trying to help him get the sleigh back in the air. And Santa's just saying there's not enough, belief in Santa anymore. There's not enough collective magic in order for this sleigh to fly. And now that the engine's broken, I can't take off. And he has a clausometer, which is this adorable thing that, like a speedometer, that calculates or measures the belief of Santa and powers this sleigh. and the reindeer. it's, it's just so funny how serendipitous the universe is, how seeing this helped seed this idea, because I've been hesitant to really, um, over time, I was really hesitant to really dream big. And I think, I did a whole podcast about it because I finally found myself in this space where the dreaming has kind of become a natural part of me. It seems to be coming directly from my soul and not from my brain is not getting in the way. My energetic signature, my energetic body is now in tune to this. I am now aligned with this. So, this alignment or this frequency change, which this frequency now matches the frequency of these blessings, this is just happening kind of by default in my body. So, the ability to dream big, to have these outrageously wild dreams, and so much so that I drew this house, this future home that sits on possibly a cliff or a rise, because it has to be above ambient light. This is how detailed. It has to be above ambient light so I can see the Milky Way in the sky every night. And I will have a viewing area on a tumbled stone patio that goes out to a walkway that goes to the edge of this cliff or this hill. Or maybe it is in an area where it doesn't have to be elevated and there's a beach that I can just walk to, where I stand in the water every morning in order to immerse into the earth, which has become an important part of my wellness routine. Uh, I even posted a video on my Instagram account this summer of me doing that. So I'm imagining this home where I can walk out to this ocean, and it is an ocean because I envision whale and porpoise out there, and I can stand in the ocean on my own private little beach on a lot that's wooded with pine trees and palm trees, which are my two favorite trees. And in this part of the world, they both are naturally occurring. How many places of palm trees and pine trees? I don't know. Maybe there are a lot. But for me, I lived in Florida for many years. Palm trees were a favorite tree. And when I moved back north to Ohio, I missed seeing palm trees. I mean, so much I almost went and bought one to keep in my home, but I don't have a green thumb, so I didn't go down that road. I didn't want to murder an innocent tree. So, but I very much appreciate palm trees. I always have. And one beautiful thing about the Northwest is pine trees. They are beautiful. They are majestic. I have a pine tree in my backyard that when I moved into this home 22 years ago was just a baby. It wasn't as tall as me yet. And now every morning I open my back shades, or my barn doors that close over my sliders, and I look out the door every morning or afternoon, depending on how long I sleep, and I say good morning to the world and good morning, little tree, because this amazingly tiny pine tree in my backyard is now as big as a 2-story, 2.5-story building. It is just this beautiful, majestic creature, and I say good morning to every day. Oh my gosh, I'm such a freak. Anyway, so what was I saying? So because I have this ability, or this, yeah, ability, it's an ability. It is. It's like a superpower to dream so big. I can see the detail. And I don't know what's going to happen. And this is why I hesitate talking about my dreams, because if they don't come true, I don't want a bunch of neeters on the other end. But I got to let that go because it doesn't matter. I don't think it's really about what actually materializes. It's about our ability to imagine the most wild and amazing things in our and that that could come to us. So for me, it was this beautiful home on an island in the middle of nowhere. Oh, I'm gonna say it out loud. In New Zealand. And I think the New Zealand aspect is because, boy, I've hesitated saying that out loud. I didn't wanna jinx it because if you remember in a previous podcast, I talked about my soul team and how they speak to me, and one of the examples I used was how they got me to understand that the man who's coming in my future is potentially not Scottish, but he's Australian, but he's probably or possibly from New Zealand. And I was gotten to that point, or led to that point, by my soul team with symbols or cards in these tarot readings. And I explained this before, so I won't explain it again. in full, but I'm watching Outlander and I'm feeling like this guy's going to be Scottish because I'm so in love with this character, Jamie Fraser. And then I have a dream about an Australian actor, and I wake up knowing that no, he's Australian. And then the readings proceed to lead me to the letter Z and to my sister's birth date, who have lived in New Zealand before she passed away 2 years ago, brought me to New Zealand. So that's how I came to this understanding of where I'm going to end up, that the place I'm going to move to across the world on the island in the middle of nowhere, of course, in my mind, that's New Zealand. I don't know that. I've never been there. I do have a family member there, believe it or not. The daughter of my half sister lives in New Zealand. So, again, there are really no coincidences here. So, anyway, so I'm imagining this beautiful home on this ledge or this cliff, or maybe it's not because maybe it's a rural enough area where I won't have to be elevated above ambient light. I don't know. Anyway, I can picture this home, the huge windows, the back of it's all windows. I have this beautiful open floor plan. I can picture every room in the house. I can picture the driveway, even the address. And I don't know if it's going to be the address or not, but it's the one that came to me. I wrote it down. So again, this is all an experiment for me. I don't know what actually will happen. But I don't think that's the point. It doesn't matter if he's truly from Australia or New Zealand or if I end up living there. And none of that I guess it really doesn't matter what actually manifests. The point is, and if it does, won't that be incredible? But anyway, the point is that my ability to imagine this incredible future is the energy that will help draw it in. So I'm thinking about this really unique thing that happened, this beautiful thing that happened. Now I don't know if you remember me saying this before, and again, this is more of the jinx it territory, that I'm overcoming this need to not talk about it because I know that I need to talk about it because that's part of me manifesting it. So when we're shy about what we want with our friends and family and we don't speak about it, and I'm guilty of this too, we're not speaking it into the world. We have to really kind of learn to energetically align with this. And in order to do that, we have to clear out all of the inhibitants to that, all of the barriers to our energy turning or elevating up to this frequency. So again, I'll say it a zillion times before I die. Get the emotional debris out of your body because it is weighing you down and keeping you from realizing your best life. Okay. So, one of the aspects that I have not spoken about that I am going to speak about for the first time is that several months ago, well, first of all, let me start here. I've been hearing about this soulmate for more than a year. September 21st, 2021 was the first time I did a reading where this soulmate came through. This man from another country who is going to come into my life someday. Now, I've heard a lot of things about him. I don't know much about him, but a few months, well, I think it was last May, somewhere during the summer. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I'm going to say it out loud. My daughter, who was over for a visit, and then my daughter has her own business, and she was approached by a company, called her to inquire about her services. She had this nice long conversation with this person, and this person was so impressed with her. He said to her, I normally would have you talk to somebody else in my company, and I don't remember what the title of that person was, but I want you to talk to my partner. I think you need to speak to him. So she's telling me the story because she's grinning. So she had this conversation with this person, and this is what she told me. She said, well, let me back up just a little bit. Oh my goodness, I'm getting ahead of myself. I had texted her several months earlier when I thought that my soulmate was going to be from Scotland, and I said, just so somebody knows about this, I believe he's from Scotland, just so nobody thinks I'm crazy. And she just texted back, haha, the laugh emojis or whatever. And I think at this point she's just entertaining my insanity. But I think she also understands that something's happening here, and she has an intuitive patience with me because she knows that something's happening. So anyway, a few months later, I was on the phone with her and I said, hey, He's not from Scotland. I believe he's Australian or maybe from New Zealand. And again, she giggled at me and whatever. So anyway, fast forward another month or two. I don't remember how long the time period was, but I called her to check in with her and she's laughing. She goes, "I don't think I should tell you this." And I said, "What are you talking about? This wasn't a visit. The visit came later." She said, "I had this amazing call with this company who reached out to me, and I talked to this one man who was one of the partners. He put me in contact with his other partner, and mom, he was from Australia." My heart just sank and I said, "What?" And she said, "It was him," is what she said. And I just, you're like, "What?" What do my daughter said to me, "It was him." And I'm like, "Holy shit." And you just start to allow your mind to go there and you're like, "Well, okay. So tell me more," and she told me about the conversation a little bit and that she might be working with him in the future. And I'm like, "Oh, that was a connection that was made through my daughter," which is, I'm writing a whole article about soulmates and I'll probably end up doing a podcast about it too, how my daughter is one of my soulmates. She's a member of my soul family and she's here in this physical realm with me, not just to play the role of my daughter and me the role of her mom, but she has been instrumental in getting me where I am. And I won't expand on that now. I'm going to do a whole nother podcast. I'm writing the article right now about soulmates. So anyway, so she tells me this is back in May. Now I'm in the end of December 2022 this is when I'm recording this episode. And for these what 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for the last 7 months, I've known about this Australian man that my daughter spoke to. And a couple of months, and I felt very, very jinxy about it. So I didn't do anything. I didn't cyber stalk him. I didn't ask her his name. I didn't look him up. I didn't do anything. I just thought, this is fated. This is destiny. I'm not going to get in the way. I'm going to leave it alone. And I did. I was not compelled at any point in time to look into this man because I didn't feel like it was my business. So there again, this is me holding back because I'm afraid of jinxing it. So I let it go for a long time. And then one morning, a few months ago, I got up and I had this overwhelming need, which I fight need because need is the ego. But in this case, it was an intuitive, like, go do this. Gina, go do this. And I marched right upstairs to my office. I logged on. Well, let me back up again. My daughter came over a couple months later and I was asking about it a little more. And she ended up telling me his first name. And she looked him up on her phone as she was sitting across from me and said, "Oh, I can see why you think he's attractive." And I'm like, "Are you looking at a picture of him?" And she was laughing. She said, "Yes." She goes, "Well, you're not seeing it." I go, "I don't want to see it. I don't want to see this." And this is so funny because this is something I really haven't told. Did I have told anybody? I think I might have told. Did I? I don't know if I told anybody this. But anyway, raw and unfiltered, right? So here we go. So a couple months later, which was about a month ago, I have this intuitive need to go on my computer and look up this company because I know the name of his company. I won't say it. I know his first name. So I go to this company's website and there it is, this company. And I'm like, "Oh crap, it does exist." And then I go to contact or about us or whatever. And I'm looking through the people. And of course, there's pictures of all these people in his company. And there's his picture and his name. And I'm like, holy shit. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, he's an attractive man. He seems too young for me. I don't know if I really feel anything. And so I shut off the computer. I didn't do anything else. And I just went on trusting. And I'm like, I didn't really feel anything. And so what started to happen, and this is so funny how the mind works, is I started to doubt it. I'm like, okay, it must not be him because I didn't feel anything. And I thought I was going to feel this like connection and this, you know, And, so over about a month's time, which is just recently, I was sitting out, it was a really beautiful day outside, and I was sitting there and I said out loud, which I speak to my soul team out loud, I said, "I looked at his picture and I believe you wanted me to, or that you would not have had my daughter who's been instrumental in everything else that's happened to me, you would not have introduced him to my daughter if I was not meant to know who he was." And you would not have had her look up his picture if I was not meant to eventually see it. This I knew. So I'm trusting this. And I said out loud, I'm not sure it's him. Can you please again? Oh, let me back up one more time. This is important. Way back when my daughter first told me about this meeting, this on the phone, I asked the universe, is that my soulmate? And within a day or two, I had a message with a card that said, yes, this is your soulmate. I actually documented it. Anyway, it's going in a book someday. So all these months later, I'm sitting outside and I said again, can you please validate for me again? Is this him? I'm doubting it because I didn't feel anything when I looked at his picture. I mean, he's lovely, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel this kind of like energetic connection that I thought I would feel. So I go into the house and within an hour, I go back online to eat my lunch, which is when I view readings, and popped up in the top row of my recommended videos is a reading. And I'm like, okay, clicked it open, forgotten about everything else. And this reading is wonderful, of course, as they all are. And at the very last card that comes up is the same card that came up beginning when I first asked that said, yes, this is your soulmate. So I'm not doubting this anymore. This is just is what it is. So again, I did not I did not cyber stalk this person. I'm so proud of myself. So anyway, I let it alone. But last was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? A week ago, I think. I was working at my computer. I don't know what I was doing, and I casually, without much thought, went to his website again. I opened it and I went into the contacts and I looked at his picture again, and I just sat there and gazed at him. And I gazed and I gazed and I gazed at him, and I just allowed myself kind of to believe this connection is real. And it's amazing how, when I allowed myself to do that, when I got through my, um, insecurities about how I might negatively impact this fated union, I was able to really just kind of bask in his image. And it was kind of, it would have been weird to anybody looking, I'm sure, but I was just kind of trying to get like an energetic connection, and it happened. It was kind of like it wasn't overwhelming. It was just very, very, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying all this out loud. It was it was very calm and still. It was just a knowing. And I don't know if that was a very old picture and he's much older, or if he is that young. I mean, he's not insanely young, but I don't know any of this yet. So I went and looked at him again, and I think that I needed to do that because the universe showed him to me. And I always wondered, I'm like, why did you show him to me if I wasn't supposed to take some sort of action towards him? Because I keep being told that he's going to come to you, that I need to let it be and let the divine plan take its course, and he will come to me when the time is right, and to leave it alone and be patient. My soul wants to learn patience and faith. So I let it go. And I'm thinking to myself now that I'm looking at this picture that I am meant to know who this person is. I am meant to know what company he has, which is in alignment with the type of company I would work with to elevate my work into the world. So I know this, and I know that the universe wants me to know this, because otherwise they would not have made it evident to me through my daughter. So I'm now realizing, okay, I have a role to play here. It's not just me waiting for this thing to happen. It is me invoking this energy. And this is I was sitting on the floor in my meditation this morning before I stretched out my legs and kind of went, "What the hell?" Real I just had this like this intuitive hit, and that's what I can tell you. They're amazing. This wisdom comes from somewhere else. And this is my higher self, or somebody in my soul team, or the higher self of my future soulmate, who is always with me, by the way. And this higher self of him, this is the highest version of this man in my future, who is in my energetic field. He has been since I've been aware of him, at least back in September 2021. And that's why I was made aware of him. So this whole exercise of me learning about this soulmate, this twin flame, we potentially are twin flames, which is different from soulmates. Twin flames potentially share a soul. We are here, one soul split in two, meant to unite at some certain time and place in whatever lifetime to carry out whatever we're meant to do. So I was meant to know about this person more than a year ago. And this was during my healing. So you have to remember back September of last year through to the summer, really maybe it was 7 months. I don't know how long that works out. I was still healing from my last relationship. So of course I'm not going to meet him then, but I'm made aware of him. And why am I made aware of him? Why do you keep telling me about this person? I actually got to the point where I was avoiding love readings because I didn't need to know anymore. I didn't want to always just think about this man. And I knew his higher self was with me. I was told that. Many of the readings that I get about my twin flame or my future soulmate are from facilitated by the tarot reader, but the messages are from his higher self, which are meant to keep me infused with this energy of him. So I don't turn in another direction. Now, I certainly can. I can go find another person to be with and I can have another relationship and not wait for this. But it's the path will lead me back here eventually. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm not going to go date in the wild. I'm going to wait for this fated union. I'm 60 years old. I don't need to go. I don't need a relationship. I've learned to love my own company, and I do. I don't need a man in my life. I never really have, but really now, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I don't have any need at all. And I think that was part of this exercise for me to learn about this person, to go through this time where I actually did feel need. Actually, I was told by my soul team to sit down and shut up because I wanted to do things. I even wrote an article that I posted on my blog briefly about him, that if he were aware of my social media, he would read it and he would come find me like this fantasy. Oh my God. I took it down really quickly because one of the messages after were sit down and shut the hell up. That it's not going to happen the way you think. Let it go. Trust the universe. This is your soul wants to trust. So trust, have faith. So I took the letter down. So I went through this frenzied time where I'm like, oh, how do I get this relationship? And then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I don't need this relationship. This relationship is meant to come when it's meant to come. And it really helped me to relax with the whole thing and not need anything. And this is one of the lessons we have to learn with every aspect of our lives, that when need drives us, um, we're searching for something external to fill us. So when we need something outside of ourselves, we're ignoring our own power. We're ignoring the gifts and the miracles within us that are all we need to satisfy ourselves. Self-love is what we gain when we do that. And when that self-love is there, we don't look for it anywhere else. And when it does come to us in its pure form, we then can appreciate it and not run it into the ground, sabotage it, scare it off, doubt ourselves, and destroy it. So, true love, which is this relationship, has been told to be the first time that I will experience true love in my life. And I'm told him too, although I'm not claiming anything on his end, I don't know. But our souls wanted to experience true love, and we're going to be doing that together. On top of that, we have a whole nother soul mission that we're meant to carry out in this world. Anyway, so I'm learning about this man, and I go through this frenzied period like last spring where I'm like, what the hell? How do I bring this in? And then I finally relax. I finally get to the other side of that where I realize I'm meant to relax and to allow this to happen. And of course, then my mind was telling me, well, don't do anything because you don't want to jinx it. So when I peeked at his picture way back then, I'm like, no, I'm not going to look again. And then I asked my daughter about him and I got his name and I'm like, well, leave him alone. Don't, I don't want to be creepy. I don't want to tell a story down the road about how I cyberstalked this poor man. I didn't do anything. I just let it go because I knew that was intuitively what I was meant to do. However, the fact that I went and looked at it again and had this kind of understanding in this immersive experience I had on this website, I realized that I'm meant to face this energetically. I'm meant to assist this energetically. So imagine that somebody that Uber Eats is looking for your house, and all of this you're on this like Stepford House neighborhood street, and every house looks exactly the same, and every address is the same, and every door is closed. And so how does this guy know where to bring this food? He's like knocking on all these doors. He doesn't know where to go. So when one person opens their door and all the other doors are closed, where do you think he's going to go? So I'm effectively opening my energetic door for this energy to find me, thereby assisting its manifestation into my life, assisting this union. So, and it's funny because this is true with everything. The more I sit and daydream about this beautiful home, the more detail I get about it. This move across the world to an island in the middle of nowhere, that's what the tarot card said. So I believe that my union with this twin flame is fated. It is part of my soul's destiny. So I've been given seeds. And I said this, I think in one of I think it was the God's Dream podcast where I said that I believe that my soul family is seeding or forming or leading me to a certain idea of my future. And I use the example of the Scotsman to the Australian because that's where I was led. So I believe, well, I know that my destiny is fated, not fated, fated, and that my relationship with my ex-husband, who was my karmic soulmate, and the reason I'm writing the article Soulmate that I'm writing now, was also fated. So we were meant to go through that together. And I've talked about that at length. So this was the reason why that ended. I learned all of those lessons kind of in one shot, like a one shot deal. I got all of it in one relationship, was because I was meant to overcome those shortcomings in my belief system, those insecurities, the victimhood, that in order to clear my energy, to clear my energetic palette, my emotional palette of all of that negativity, all of that karma, so I could elevate to this frequency. And not just for this relationship and this fated part of my life. Well, I believe that all of my life has been fated, but because I'm here to raise my own frequency so I can aid the rising of the frequency of this earth. The raising was the right use of that. Raising of the, yeah. So I'm here on a dual mission, and I've been told this several times in my own oracle readings, which I've just recently started doing to sharpen my own intuition, which, by the way, is just trusting the first thing you feel and then not doubting it. Is that I'm here on a double mission. I'm here to evolve personally, and I'm here to help collectively evolve this earth. So I believe that the rest of my mission with this twin flame has more to do with the evolution of the frequency of the earth than my personal journey has up until now, which is evolving me. So this man has been in my eye line, in my peripheral for over a year. And I always wondered why. And then I'm wondering, why did you show me him if I'm not meant to go out? I mean, I know how to get a hold of him. I got his email address. But I'm not meant to do that. I intuitively know that. I'm meant to wait for the universal plan, the divine plan as it has been put, to align us together. And whenever that's meant to be is out of my hands. And because it's out of my hands, I can let go of any expectation or need around it. But again, my energy is needed. And I think maybe we're at a time, because again, I was shown, I was told about this person over a year ago. During the summer, I was told about a contact with him, with my daughter. And then, this is all of these little things that happen are part of this plan. So when I feel like, oh, I'm interrupting the plan by not looking at his picture soon enough, no, 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 no. Every step that I've taken is part of this plan. Every single step, even though it feels like a hesitation or even a backward step to me or a complete stall, it's all part of the plan. And this is where that trust comes in, and where our brain wants us to control what's happening, and our body is just saying, no, no. So, because I've allowed my brain to kind of take the position that where it is most useful, and I've allowed this energetic brain to become my main source of wisdom, I know that I'm not meant to reach out to this person, at least not yet. And if that changes, I'll be made aware of it. But this connection has been made through my daughter. So I would have this access to this image and this idea. And then my imagination can start to fill in the blanks. And this imagination, again, I believe, because this is a fated situation, is seeded by my soul team. So I'm led in the right direction. So I'm imagining this home in this island in the middle of nowhere with this man. And I can feel him. And I keep saying this out loud. And I said this when my dog passed away several years ago, my dog Oreo, who is one of my soul team members. When he passed away, I felt this, I felt him in my heart. I would say it out loud all the time. I feel you. And if anyone has ever lost someone and felt this before, you'll know what I'm talking about. I felt this soul in my heart. And I would say every night, I feel you. And that's how I knew when my soul team was telling me, when this soul was telling me in a tarot reading that I am one of your spirit guides. And he used the example of somebody you miss very much, who you still hold in your heart. I knew it was him. And all I needed validation for was, can you please, say black dog? And of course I got a reading where the tarot reader said black dog. And I knew that the soul of my dog Oreo was one of my spirit guides. It's so beautiful. So anyway, I know that this energy of this future soulmate is already in my heart. I can feel him. And of course, this is the work of his higher self. He has been with me this whole time. Our higher selves, my higher self and the higher self of this person, have been together for a very long time. They found each other long before we did because their energy, their only energy. So they were drawn to each other. They found each other. They've been together and they've been orchestrating the three-dimensional aspects of this union. So, of course, I mean, we are energy. This pops out of my mouth so often, and a lot of times it feels misplaced, but we are all energy. Our frequency is the level that we identify with or that we live on in our life. So if we're in a lower density frequency, we're unable to hear higher or be or live higher frequencies. So it's just same like a dog whistle. I used this before. The frequency of a dog whistle is so high that as humans we can't hear it, but dogs can because their hearing is on a different frequency. So it's the same thing. We're in this frequency, and the three-dimensional frequency is much denser than the four or the five or six dimensional frequencies. And when you rise in frequencies, you drop the weight of the former frequency, and you have more access to intuitively knowing and feeling frequencies. And then I know some people can see them. I can't, but you start to have these intuitive knowings about things because this energy is allowed to access all of your your brain, your heart, your senses. It becomes integrated into your body. So this this raise or rise in frequency, it gives us these abilities where we can now have this connection, this conversation, these intuitive knowings that become our guidance in our lives, and we don't question them anymore. I don't question it anymore. So I believe I was shown this man's picture and his company because I'm meant to energetically assist or draw in this energy. My imagination, my ability to imagine this relationship, which I have vivid daydreams about. I won't go into detail because I don't want to say anything weird, but I have these like I feel this person in my energy. So the more I gaze at that picture, which I've only done once since then, and I have not cyber stalked you, if you ever hear this, I don't feel the need to do that, but I know that that connection with his image allows me to imagine more vividly because I can see him now. This energetic union that our higher selves are already enjoying. So basically the energy comes here before the physical aspects or the physicality comes. So when I feel this twin flame in my heart, I'm feeling his energy. And I've been told this over and over and over for a year now that we have this intuitive connection, this telepathic connection. And that connection is a connection. It connects these two energies. So it helps establish all of these three-dimensional alignments that are necessary for this union to come into reality. So I'm sitting there meditating this morning. Of course, I couldn't meditate when I started thinking about this, and I'm like, "Holy crap. That's why you've been telling me about him for so long and why you ultimately showed me who he is." And then you slapped my hand when I thought that maybe I needed to reach out because no, that's not what I need you to do. They literally slapped my hand. It was not fun, but I got it. So, my ability to imagine this man more vividly is assisting this because the timing for this is obviously soon. I don't know what soon means because in the universe there's no time. Everything is happening simultaneously. There is no time separation. There's no past, future, or present. All of this is happening at once. Time is only a man-made aspect for us to keep track of things, and it's very useful in this earthly realm. But time does not exist outside of this. So soon to me, maybe another year or two. I have no idea what soon means, but I believe that I'm now to be instrumental, energetically instrumental with my imagination and my will to my desire for this is become an integral part of probably the most difficult, most dense aspects of bringing this into reality. So the energetic selves, the higher selves are together because they are pure energy. They don't have any barriers. There's no physicality for them to overcome. The lower you go into densities, into this human world, into this human body, into the brains in our the houses that hold these energetic beings, we have a whole nother aspect to deal with. So the density of all of this has to be um, orchestrated or aligned or manipulated in order for this reunion to happen. And this is a reunion because this man is a member of my soul family and has been for as long as I've been in existence, which I don't know how long that is. It could be several lifetimes, it could be a millennia, I don't know. But so now I'm having this intuitive knowing that I'm meant to look at that picture. I'm meant to imagine this person in my life because I already feel him energetically in my heart, but now I can picture him. I can picture him, I can feel him, like, physically, and not in a weird, creepy way, but I can feel his touch on my hand, I can see his gaze, I can hear his voice. I can even imagine my hand on his chest and feeling the vibration of his voice in his chest, in his body. That's how much detail I'm gaining every time I think about this. Just like that house that I've been picturing for several months that I drew, I now have an image of this man who is helping me kind of from an opposite direction to manifest this thing into reality because we're fated to come together. Now, this is all theoretical. I'm not a scientist. Thank God. I would be a terrible scientist because I would go in and say, I think that's right. And that I wouldn't need proof. So I this is theoretical in that regard, but I know this in my body. And if from what I've learned about energy, which is again micro training, because when I need to know something, I look it up. It's micro training. I'm learning what my mind needs in order to help facilitate where I'm going next. Micro training. I've done this my whole life. Now I really see the overarching benefit of being able to micro train and not having to immerse yourself completely for long periods of time into one aspect of this world. Again, I'm not saying that isn't right for some, it just wasn't for me. And I can see why more clearly now than ever, of course, because clarity is another gift. I can more easily decipher my ego from my brain, my body's brain, my intuitive brain, my soul, the channel to my soul, the channel to the universe, the wisdom in the universe. I don't need to know, quote unquote, anything. I know it. And I'm meant to just talk about it. And you're meant to take it in or not. You know what I mean? There's no hard and fast way to do this. This is just like, I'm sharing my story, my perspectives, my experiences. If it lands with you, awesome. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Or maybe it will eventually. I don't know. All I know is how this works for me. And it just turned to 1:11 on the clock. How this works for me is I just know, and I don't have to question it because I've gotten rid of all the doubt. And that first instinct is the right one. That's why tarot readers, when they read, they say, I feel, or I know, or the feeling I'm getting is, or what I'm being shown. It has nothing to do with their brain. It is the soul realm, or the souls that are coming through to the tarot reader to deliver a message are giving that tarot reader images or symbols, either in the cards or visually, some see them, that connect with an intuitive knowing or a memory. Or let's say when I look at the ocean, I think of, that's not a good one. When I look at, let me see, give a good one. Mm, 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 When I look at a coffee mug, I think of coffee, right? It's an easy place to get to. Coffee mug equals coffee. So when I'm shown an image on a card that is familiar to me, it invokes or evokes a memory of what comes to mind. So yeah, a picture of a baby in a swing makes me think of when I was a kid and I fell off my swing. Like, you're meant to see that image so it invokes or evokes something in your memory that you connect with, and that's what that image was meant to bring to your mind. So when a tarot reader says, this makes me think of, that's what it was meant to make them think of. And it's funny because I have another article idea just entitled God. This is what I believe the God energy is. And I won't go off on a tangent here, but when we see the image of God, which is most popularly this man with long hair in draped, robes, in sandals, we are evoked to think of what we think about, what God means to us. And that evocation reminds us to be godlike, to follow the rules of God. You know what I'm saying? That image is meant to evoke that in us. So, oh my God. So what I believe is that we are shown the images that we're most comfortable relating to. So, when you pass away and you see an image of God, it's going to be an image that you're most comfortable with. And for some people, it is not a white man with long hair. It might be a black woman with an afro. It might be a child. It might be an animal. It doesn't matter. The image is just there to evoke something. So the image of this man, this twin flame, this faded soulmate, is meant to evoke my imagination, where I can now use his actual image to evoke, to inspire, to draw in this energy. So this energy doesn't have to knock on a bunch of closed doors. It can just come right in. So this is what's being opened. This is forgive me, this is all coming to me as I'm speaking. This is how we become receptive to what blessings are on this frequency that we have risen to. So you have to call in the order. So I'm ordering my pizza and then Uber Eats is going to bring it. I open my door, that I've done my part. So I'm doing my part. I put the order in. I've given a specific face and a name. And I now can use that to invoke this union. And I don't know when or how or what. I don't know anything really. But I'm just sharing what I intuitively know. And why I was so excited this morning, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is not my imagination. And this is why I've been shown this person. And then my hand slapped when I thought I was supposed to do something with that, something physical, something in the physical world. It's energetic. And this is why our this has opened my receptivity for this. This has given the universe permission to come in with it. So it's so I opened that door. It's just amazing. I'm just like kind of flabbergasted to think about this because I always don't know, is it a good idea to get on the mic right away or should I really think this through? And I think thinking it through is not it's not what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to just speak it out and see what happens because it's so much more genuine. I don't have time to formulate my hypotheses. You know what I mean? It just is how I feel. And this is the whole point and why I was led to do a podcast because this is the most authentic way to speak is just without no editing, no buffering, nobody deciding if it's appropriate or not, including especially me. It just is what it is. So I believe that this, and I just saw 1717 on the timer, which is a soulmate number for me. It's on my license plate, by the way. I probably shouldn't say that out loud. But anyway, that I am meant to know who this person is. And again, long before I was healed enough to ever want this in my life. And then I went crazy wanting it. And then I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I don't need this. I want to be patient. And that's all happened. So this whole process has brought me to this point where I am now comfortable in my own skin. I have no need for this to happen, but I have an acute awareness of its inevitability, which has allowed me to really relax and know that when it's meant to be, it will be. And honestly, to take the advice of my soul team in between these two worlds is to relax and enjoy my solitude. And I forgot how much I enjoy my solitude. I felt bad because my daughter called me on Christmas Day 3 days ago, 2 days ago, after visiting her husband's family because I normally don't see her on holidays because her family is huge and it's only me. So I've never insisted that she see me on holidays. But she called me on her way home and just asked what I was doing. I said, "Oh, I'm throwing a pizza in the oven. I'm working on an article." And I didn't even think until after I hung up how pitiful she must think. Oh, my poor mom's all by herself. And I'm like, no, I love this. I spent Christmas Day in my house clothes, writing and eating frozen pizza. It was amazing. But every day kind of is that way for me. But my point is my solitude has become I'm present in it. I'm not trying to escape it because if I were to lose it again or when I do, I'm going to miss it. So I'm always reminded, enjoy what you have while you have it. I don't have to want something that's coming because I don't need it. And I think this is the point of this podcast It's twofold. One is that our energy is needed. Our imagination, our ability to imagine wildly is required. Our part that we do to bring in these fantasies into our world. So clear the deck, remove the barriers, open the channel, get comfortable in your own skin, learn to trust your intuition, and then there you go. You have this universe conspiring to help you, to assist you in the the manifesting of all of your dreams. So I'm not just hoping for a guy who's nice to me. Jesus, no. I'm imagining, you know, the god to my goddess, the emperor to my empress. There's a self-loving man who's capable of breathing my air. And I'm waiting for that. I am not going out into the wild and hoping I find that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I want you to know that you're enough by yourself. And if you allow that to be true in your body, in your heart, in your mind, all of your bodies aligned, and there are many, you change your energetic signature to self love, and then the universe conspires for you. The universe conspires to help you find every blessing available to you, and they're all meant for you. They're already lined up waiting, but they need the path cleared to get here. So, that ideal relationship, you have to be ideal too. You cannot get that top tier person if you are not top tier. So when you're complaining to the universe that you don't have a good person in your life, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And that saying has been so overused, but it's just the truth. Be the change you want to see in your life. If you want a loving, compassionate, loyal, attentive person as your partner, you have to be all of those things. Don't you want to be that for them? And you cannot be that until you stop the friggin' carousel of your life, shove all the shit off of it, get comfortable in your own solitude. And I did an article called Unconditional Love where I write about this. It's on my website. Get comfortable in your own skin so you can learn to love yourself. And in that self love, you develop the desire for your best life. And all of the elements start to pop into your imagination. And then you imagine this incredible fantasy. And then the universe starts to conspire to bring it to you. That's manifestation. And I think my hesitancy to talk about manifestation was because I'm being led to certain things that are seated in my imagination. So what is manifest? I get it now. I believe I get it. Maybe I don't. This is what I feel. I'm on a fated journey. So for me, I have to be led to certain aspects, certain crossroads in order for me to get where I'm supposed to get. And my free will is completely at play here. I'm not saying I'm required to do these things, but I'm so intuitively aligned now. This is where I'm going. I don't want to go anywhere else. I have no false ideas of anything better. I want to go where the universe and my soul wants me to be. Why would I judge that? I may not be able to imagine the depth or the breadth of what's coming. And thank God. It's not up to me. This is part of my soul's journey, her purpose. Purpose says. So if you clear all the shit out of the way, if you're not on a fated journey and you're not meant to meet a soulmate in this lifetime, it doesn't mean that this won't work for you. It just may mean that you're not seated with specific things that are led you to a specific place. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I feel. This is why I was confused about manifestation and I didn't really talk about it much because I wasn't sure if this is what that was. But of course it is. It is our ability to imagine our best lives that brings into our worlds our best lives. And as we become more self loving and we clear the decks, we can imagine the most wild things. So for me, manifestation is coupled with this guidance that I'm receiving to lead me to this certain place and a certain person. And they want my help because I have this connection. They can just talk to me. I don't have to wonder what's happening or resist things or have my own brain ideas about what I should be doing. I can allow this wisdom to come to me. I don't have to do anything except for respond. So it's taken all that shit away. Am I doing what I should be doing? Am I on the right path? Am I blah, blah, blah that we tell ourselves? We're always on the right path. Sometimes there's a lesson that needs to be learned before that path can continue to the elevated places. So you don't judge the path, you just go. And this is why the letting go of fear, which was my last podcast, is so important because that fear inhibits us. It's a shield to what's next for us. It's amazing how all this ties together, isn't it? There's no mistakes. We're not making mistakes. We're not failing. So when we allow that to determine who we are, how we feel about ourselves, our energetic signature, we abdicate our right to the most beautiful life possible. We give away our power to the fear demons that wish to inhibit us. Our brain that wishes to keep us in a place where it is comfortable controlling. That's why our soul, access to our soul, our energetic body, this awakening is so important because now we have this engine, this alien engine that drives us. And why I said in my last podcast, I am an alien. What on earth do I have to fear? Think about that. I am a I don't know, friggin' alien. I don't have any business getting entwined in the minutia of this life. When we get caught too deeply in the detail, we lose sight of why we're here. So when that relationship breaks our heart and we never recover, or that we lose that loved one and our heart is broken and we never recover, we are getting caught in the detail of this life. That soul of that person who passed on is still with you. They're just relieved of this heavy body. There's an article on my website called Death. It's free. Go look at it. There's nothing in this physical realm that holds us back unless we allow it. And this took me a long time to learn, guys. I am not 25 years old. But damn, I learned it and I feel I feel this incredible freedom that I've never felt any time in my life before. This life is an adventure we're on. We are meant to learn and to enjoy. And if we can do both at the same time, what a flippin' blessing. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. And this is getting really long, so I will leave you with how incredibly amazed I am at this incredible universe and how beautiful this life is when we can see it clearly. And how incredible every interaction, every relationship, every heartbreak, every lesson actually is. And when you rise high enough into these frequencies, you can see it all. Like on a mountaintop, you can see everywhere you've been and where you're going, even. It takes that fear away and allows you to trust. And in that trust, boy, anything is possible. So go forth and dream. Dream as big as you can. Clear the shit out. Dream bigger. and then dream bigger because you have no idea what's possible. No idea. And neither do I, and it's so exciting. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it more than I could ever say. And I'm so grateful to my spirit team, my soul family, to this incredible universe for giving me this incredible wisdom, this incredible access to you. And I'm just so grateful for every moment. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.